These are the trees that we just did yesterday. Got a large eucalyptus over on the right and a flowering pear over on the left. It hasn't blossomed yet. Some of the flowering pears are starting to blossom, but this one has not. And I've got a before and after picture that I'd like to show you. I took them from the same spot. And you can see we didn't do an excessive amount of work on these trees. We took out the necessary branches. There was one big low one on this eucalyptus that was hanging over the pear and over the house, and we made the decision to take that off. Eucalyptus trees are one of the species that are prone to breakage. They get a lot of these seed corns on the tips, and they often develop just massive amounts of suckers on the inside, and they're just such an aggressive growing tree. So there was one big wound inside there that we took that was really crowding things out, and over on the other side here, let's see if we can see the wound, the limb that we took off. It's down here. It was about a 12-inch diameter cut, but the people are quite happy with the tree now. And maybe we over pruned it a little bit. Maybe we took out a little bit too much because I see an awful lot of sky up there. But this species of tree just flushes out so quickly. In 2 months' time, you would be amazed by what this tree is going to look like. And when the alternative is to remove the tree, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Now the pear, we did a light thinning, taking all the crossovers. We did a little bit of crown reduction on it because it was getting out there just a little bit too far. This is an addition that they just put on the house, so we had to do some harsh cuts on that side of the tree before they put the addition up. But interestingly, they called us to remove this tree, and the city denied it. So they had to fence around the base of the tree so they could build this addition. And it's a beautiful, beautiful part of their landscape. And now that the addition is done, they really appreciate this tree. In a few weeks' time, this thing is just going to be a blaze of white flowers. It's going to bloom just beautiful. This is a fruitless variety of pear. I think I'm going to continue my rant about looking at deciduous trees and recognizing what the past did to the trees. Now I remember years and years ago, we're going way back in time, that the homeowner that lived at this house used to chop these trees severely. Boom, boom, boom. They were the silliest looking sycamore trees you ever did see. And apparently he either passed away or moved on, and the new owners just let the trees grow. And you can see what's happened. If you look closely up there, you can see that there is a cavity, a hole right there. But seriously, these trees were cut down to just 2 or 3 big nubs every year. And I wouldn't call it pollarding. It was absolutely ridiculous. Now, in saying that, some trees, like I said, silver maple and birch are amongst those that decay really quickly. Some trees, like the sycamore, they seem to tolerate the abuse, and they seem to absorb the wounds quite well. And look at that. You can't believe that this tree was stubbed off. It was cut down 1/3 of the height. Look at how tall it's grown. Now the problem is that you don't really know what's going on inside. There could be long-term decay growing inside these wounds, and as these branches get bigger and bigger and bigger, that weakness down there may show its ugly head. As you can see, that this tree and this tree and this, every single one of them, they were just chopped severely every single year. To the untrained eye, you might say, wow, those are some good looking trees. It doesn't look like they've ever been cut back very hard. But believe me, I shook my head at these trees every single year for 15 or 20 years, I saw these trees chopped back to nothing every single year. Now, I used the term sycamore when I referred to this tree in the last shots, and I need to correct myself. In California, we call these sycamores. In the UK, a sycamore is a type of maple. You would refer to this as a plane tree. Now, it's not commonly called a London plane. Actually, this particular one is a native sycamore. This is the Platanus racemosa, and they can get quite large. These are the trees that grow commonly along creeks. It's kind of interesting to see all the sycamore balls, or the plane tree balls at this time of year. They're quite beautiful. They're coming out brand new and fresh, and they've got a beautiful red color to them. This tree is susceptible to a disease called anthracnose, and the new leaves on the native plane trees, or sycamores, will often tinge around the edges. These are the brand new fresh leaves that are just coming out. And if the anthracnose is bad, it's usually the wet weather that brings the anthracnose out. If it's bad, it will cause the leaves to fall off. They'll tinge all the way around. But this time of the year, it's quite beautiful. Now, I'd like to contrast this with the London plane, and I want to mention that there are a lot of different cultivars of London plane. This is the Platanus acerfolia, but this is a particular cultivar known as the yarwood. And the yarwood is an interesting species, or interesting cultivar, because it has a tendency to grow very, very wide. You can see how the branches grow really wide, and they're wide spreading. I actually planted every single one of these trees in this row, with the exception of a couple of these new ones down here. My daughter went to this high school, and 22 years ago, she's 39 now, 22 years ago, I came out here and planted all of these trees. Now, one of the negative aspects of the yarwood is the branches will grow very wide, and they often break off. So consequently, many of these trees have had the lower limbs, the wide-spreading limbs, removed, as well as lifted up because they want to be able to walk through here. But you can see this whole row of trees. I can't remember how many of them, but these are all 22 years old. And I planted them.